Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Hi, welcome to Crime Clueless. We're your hosts. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Lara.
There's a woman named Kaylin. She used to babysit two sweet girls for a man named Josh. He's a recent widower. She started a few months after his wife died. She told investigators years after the fact, almost in passing, something that struck her as odd. Something she picked up on after spending a great deal of time in that household. And all that time, watching his two sweet girls being around him constantly, she says he never once brought her up. His wife, that is. Never, I miss Stacy. Not even, I miss their mom. Nothing. She compares it to her own father. Kaylin says when he passed, she couldn't stop talking about him. It just poured out of her for months. With Josh, though, there was just silence. And it didn't make sense. It wasn't the only thing that she didn't understand. A new girlfriend moved into the house his wife used to live in less than 6 months after she died. Now, of course, grief doesn't look one way. Some people go quiet, some people move fast because sitting still can be unbearable. That on its own isn't evidence of anything. But it turns out a lot of things about this man don't quite add up the way they should. A wife who died young with a heart condition that doctors could never quite explain. A rushed cremation before anyone could ask too many questions. And a chemical, the exact same one down to the brand name that we already spent an entire episode on last week. Because just weeks before this story even begins, about 30 miles away, a woman named Lana Clayton was arrested for something eerily similar. And this is the case investigators believe she inspired. This is the story of Stacy Hunsucker. Okay, so let's back up and meet these two people because before any of this, they're just this young couple who had known each other since high school.
High school sweethearts. I kind of love that and hate that this is the starting point for something that sounds pretty dark, actually.
Right? I agree. Josh and Stacy got married in 2010 in Myrtle Beach. Josh had played college football, and by the time we pick up the story, he is working as a flight paramedic, flying on medical helicopters for Atrium Health, responding to the kind of emergencies where you really need someone who can stay calm under pressure.
And is he pretty good at this job, do they say?
By every account, he was really good at it. Coworkers describe him as technically sharp, dependable, someone that they trusted in the air, which, hold on to that because it's going to matter a lot later.
Noted. And he's a medical professional, just like Lana was. So that's an interesting start to this story.
Yeah, you got that really fast.
Yeah. What does Stacy do?
Stacy's path is a little more winding. She starts out as a preschool teacher at a church preschool. Then she works as a paralegal at a couple of different law firms and eventually becomes a full-time stay-at-home mom once they have their two daughters.
And what was she like outside of all of that?
This is actually one of the harder parts of researching this case. Stacy is genuinely difficult to find in her own words. Most of what exists about her comes through other people or really through the lens of what happened to her. But from a friend named Shelly, we get a little color. She says Stacy loved craft projects, specifically hand painting these little wooden signs, that kind of thing. She says Stacy watched sports on TV, She mentioned she was a little self-conscious about her weight after having 2 kids. You know, the way a lot of people are. Just super normal things. And Shelley had a read on the marriage itself. It was simple. She said, they were just a cute couple. I never even heard them argue. Another friend named Kelly put it a different way. She said, quote, she did not deserve for this to happen to her. She was a great mother and she was a happy person.
That's such a normal, relatable description of her. Like you said, just super normal things that so many of us are that same way.
Exactly. It really is. And that's actually consistent all the way up until about 6 weeks before Stacy dies. Shelley stops by their house that summer to pick up one of those wooden signs that she'd bought from Stacy. It was a welcome sign, and I think it was like $20. The two of them just chat for a few minutes, totally ordinary. Stacy mentions to Shelley she's trying to lose a little weight. Shelley says of that interaction that it was just a normal, everyday conversation. She seemed fine.
So no real red flags or warning signs at this point.
No, nothing from the outside. But there is something going on with Stacy that's been happening for years by that point. And it's a thread we need to pull on now. It will become important later. So in February of 2013, Stacy gives birth to their first daughter, Piper. And not long after, she starts having these episodes. Unexplained drops in her heart rate and blood pressure. It's nothing that anybody can pin down a cause for.
Like, how serious are we talking? Is this? Did she have to be admitted to the hospital ever? Or just these events would kind of happen at home and then resolve?
They were actually serious enough that she did have to be admitted to the hospital. A family friend actually even set up a GoFundMe a couple of years later to help with all the mounting medical costs. And it just keeps getting worse. In November of 2014, Stacy has their second daughter, Willow. And after that, she's hospitalized again. Low heart rate, low blood pressure, spending days in the ICU. And then in January of 2015, she's admitted again. And on this day, shortly after they get her settled into her hospital room, she goes into full cardiac arrest. They have to put her on a ventilator.
That's terrifying, especially with 2 young kids.
And you're in your 20s. She was so young to be having all of these things. And it sounds like the doctors are lost on what's causing this. They wrote on the GoFundMe, quote, after many tests, the doctors are still stumped to what is going on. Stacy ends up with a pacemaker before she even turns 30. Her cardiologist apparently called it almost unheard of in someone that young and otherwise healthy. Now, I do want to say I've seen some corners of the internet suggest that Josh was somehow behind these earlier health scares too, going all the way back to 2013. And I want to be really clear, there's no court document, no indictment, no prosecutor statement anywhere that makes that claim. There's nothing that officially connects him to Stacy's earlier medical history. And honestly, I get the feeling that he took advantage of the health history she already had.
So she's dealing with this mystery illness for years with no real confirmed answer, but nothing really tying it to him.
Nothing confirmed. So either a weird coincidence, they didn't find it if it isn't, or he just took advantage of the situation.
Which is really sad. I was thinking, how could someone do this like right after she just had her first baby and then again after having their second baby? So I don't know how I feel about all of that.
I know. It's hard to sit with. And so if it truly was something awful that she was dealing with really young, that they couldn't find the cause for, that's awful too.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Nothing confirmed.
Okay.
Here's the detail that's going to sit differently with you once you know the rest of the story. Because Josh, like you said, he is the one with the medical training. He becomes her primary caregiver at home. He understands her medications. And he's the one who tracks her symptoms. He's always the one who notices when something's starting and always the one who calls for help.
Okay, I already don't really like where this is going, even without a confirmed connection, since I know what happened last week.
Yeah, that does give you a little insight into the story before we even tell the story, right?
Yeah.
I'll just say at the time, nobody thought anything extra of it. To the community, this was a devoted paramedic husband taking incredible care of a chronically sick wife. There was also a fire at their home in 2013 that destroyed most of their belongings on top of everything else. So that's when she started having the health scares right after they had their first daughter. And people rallied around them for that too. This was, by every outward measure, a couple going through a hard stretch together, but getting through it and maybe getting through it because they had each other.
Yeah, it's really sad story. Even their background is terrible.
Yeah,
All of her health issues, the fire, all of the things. That's really hard. It's a hard thing to go through.
absolutely.
I want
And
to ask you if she has life insurance.
she does.
A big one.
250,000.
So something
Mm-hmm. And I'm
interesting.
wondering, I tried really hard to find when they got that. Because on the one hand, once you start having kids, it's good to have life insurance just
Mhm.
in case something happens.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get life insurance when you have this heart condition that
Yeah.
nobody knows
The
about.
medical
So,
issues.
right, it could have been before all of that, or it could have been not till 2018 when things keep getting worse and worse. But it probably
Yeah.
would have been crazy expensive premiums, right?
I was wondering too, if, because I know I got my first one right after I had my first baby, and maybe they were kind of planning before, and maybe they got it before they had their first baby, or maybe it was something. I don't think ones through like spouse's insurance are that high, but I mean, if he had one for her through his work, I know sometimes that
It,
is something, but usually I think those are quite a bit less.
it is two separate ones.
Okay.
I think one is like 200,000, one's 50. So that would
Okay.
make sense that maybe the 50,000 was through his job.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. What they normally are when you sign up for them for your spouse through your work.
Yeah.
So that sounds about right.
Yeah. Now, let's move to September of 2018. On September 23rd, Josh calls 911. He tells the dispatcher that he's found Stacy, she's not breathing, and that her lips are blue.
And this was at their home, correct?
Correct. This was at their home in Mount Holly. He stays on the line, gives the address clearly, sounds composed the whole time, which honestly, given his training, makes sense. You know, he would know how to stay calm in a really stressful, difficult situation. Emergency crews get there, they rush her to the hospital, but she's pronounced dead on arrival, and she's only 32 years old.
And given everything we've talked about, the heart condition, everything she'd been through previously, this probably doesn't look suspicious to anyone at first. But, because this is our true crime podcast and I know some background, I know more is coming.
Yeah. But you are right. On the surface, this doesn't look suspicious at all. Given her history, a heart attack is the obvious explanation. And that's exactly what everyone accepts, doctors included. Nobody is looking for anything else because there's really no reason to.
So, since this is kind of the background, there is no real reason to look past that. How does this start to unravel here for Josh?
Well, by his own doing. It
Huh?
starts with something small. Josh is telling different people different things about what he was doing right before he found her, which makes no sense to me. Why would you tell four different people four different stories?
Yeah.
To police, when they get there, he says that he'd gone outside to check that their vehicles were locked because there'd been some car break ins in the neighborhood recently. To one friend, he says he'd gone for a walk to, quote, burn some energy. To another friend, he says he was actually out in the backyard cutting wood for those signs that Stacy makes.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Those are three completely different stories. Not even similar. Not even like I went outside to check the cars. Oh, and I took a walk. That
Yeah,
makes no sense at all.
totally. It's just such a small thing to not have figured out before you start talking to people. Do you think none of them will ever speak to each other, I guess?
Yeah.
But I don't even
maybe.
understand why you need different stories.
Yeah, just tell the same story.
Yeah.
Don't make yourself look suspicious.
Well,
or do, so we
or
can catch
do.
you. I don't know.
Well, then there's a fourth version that he tells Stacy's own mother, Susie. He tells her he was sitting at the kitchen table working on his computer, that his back was to Stacy the whole time. And when he turned around, that's when he saw her slumped over the side of the couch.
So really, depending on who you talk to, different stories all around.
Yep. And I just do not understand, the why of it all.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it starts to look worse. Josh refuses to allow an autopsy. He tells people he doesn't want her, quote, cut up. And this is despite the fact that Stacy was a registered organ donor, someone who had in her own paperwork already consented to exactly that kind of procedure after death.
Well, it's a strange thing to override, especially when someone is that young and they die unexpectedly. It seems like you'd want to try and find out some answers, right?
Yeah.
Especially since you have children. If this is something that they may have, it seems like you'd want to know that. It's very odd.
Want to know that. I would want to know what to keep an eye out for my two young girls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when her condition started when she was so young and they couldn't ever figure out why. And now it takes her life. You don't want to figure out what is going on.
Right.
That's very odd.
It's so selfish. I mean,
yes.
Ugh. It was weird to me that she wanted to be an organ donor as well, and he wouldn't let that happen. So I did some research into that, and legally, a spouse cannot override a registered donor's wishes. There's something called the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act that's been adopted in some form by all 50 states, including North Carolina, where they lived. A registered donor's consent is treated as legally binding, similar to a will. And once someone has registered either through a DMV or a donor registry, etc., family members, including a spouse, have no legal authority to revoke or override that decision after death. But in practice, doesn't always work that way. They have what's called organ procurement organizations, which are OPOs. They're the agencies that actually coordinate donation at time of death. And they aren't legally required to get family permission when a first person registration already exists, but many of them do it anyways, informally, to avoid confrontation with a grieving family. There's actually research in this that was cited in one of the sources I found, and it puts it at roughly 20% of OPOs saying they wouldn't proceed with recovery of the organs if the family strongly objected, even when they have a registered donor. So it's not that Josh had legal power to override Stacy's registration. It's that the OPO, facing his objection, likely just chose not to push the issue, which is documented, but a legally questionable practice. Now, here's another detail I found that I think says a lot. Stacy's funeral isn't arranged or paid for by Josh. It's her own parents who handle all of it.
Oh, he doesn't even help with the planning or anything?
No, according to the court affidavit, that falls to Susie and her husband entirely. And meanwhile, Josh moves fast in a different direction.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
He has her body cremated within 2 days of her death. And in that same tiny window, he also files a claim for her life insurance. So those two policies that we mentioned earlier, together worth about $250,000.
Wow. Only 2 days after she had died?
2 days.
That's wild.
He ends up receiving a large majority of that too.
Is anyone bringing up any red flags at this point?
Not yet, but there are people around him who start noticing things. His coworkers at Atrium Health later tell investigators they were surprised by how seemingly unaffected he seemed by her death and how quickly he'd moved on. You know, a new girlfriend, someone who ends up moving into the house with him, all within 6 months.
Wow. The same house that she died in, they stayed there and he moves a new girlfriend in 6 months later.
Yep, 6 months.
I hope she haunted him.
I hope she did too. Here's a piece that changes it for me. When Susie, so Stacy's mom, learns about this new relationship, she doesn't just find the timing distasteful. She learns something more specific. According to one of the court affidavits, this relationship had reportedly already been going on before her daughter died.
So this isn't just he moved on fast. This is he may have already been involved with someone else before she passed.
That's what the court docs say, yeah.
Wow.
And I think that's a really important distinction because it changes what Susie's actually looking at. You know, at this point, it's not one clean red flag. It's this slow accumulation of details plus the red flags that had already popped up.
Yeah.
Learning that the affair was going on before her daughter died, refusing an autopsy, the 2 days to get the insurance money, and cremating her. And then not to mention, Josh can't seem to tell the same story twice about where he even was when she died.
Yeah, that's really just a pattern building piece by piece, and you can't explain it away anymore.
Exactly.
All these things that are very suspicious.
And I think that's exactly right and worth sitting with because nobody wants to be the person who thinks that about their own son-in-law. You don't jump to that conclusion. You know, it sounds like she got pushed there one detail at a time until you can't not see it anymore.
And what does Susie do with this information?
She takes it to the North Carolina Department of Insurance, which I think is pretty smart and maybe not where you'd expect a homicide investigation to start, but it's the angle that felt most concrete to her. She knows they don't want to pay out life insurance to somebody who caused this person's death.
Yeah.
They'll really look into it. Now, when she does that, it's enough to trigger a fraud inquiry even before anyone's used the word murder.
And is that inquiry what actually cracks the case open?
Eventually, yeah, but it's not immediate. And in the middle of the investigation, quietly working its way forward, something else happens that's strange and honestly, genuinely dangerous that doesn't even involve Stacy at all. So on November 26th, 2019, it's about 1 a.m. Josh is on duty working as a flight paramedic. So this is more than a year after Stacy died. He's aboard one of Atrium Health's medical helicopters. And at this point, the insurance investigation is going on behind the scenes, but not really one with the police department. At this point, Josh, as far as we know, is still going about his life like normal, still doing his job, has the new girlfriend that's living with them. I'm sure he knows about the insurance investigation, but I can't find details on when he was alerted or how that sequence of events played out.
I bet that he was notified because if they were making payments to him for this insurance payout, those payments likely stopped if there's a fraud inquiry. So he probably was aware
He'd already
from
got
that.
most of it. He got it quick.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if he didn't get all of it, maybe I don't know. That was just my thought.
Yeah. I feel like they would want information from him, medical records, things that he would have to hand over. So I am sure he knew about it, probably wasn't happy about it, but probably thought with the cremation, tracks covered, good to go.
Yeah. And her previous medical history. Yeah.
Exactly.
So does something happen on this flight?
Yeah. A fire breaks out, specifically something called a syringe pump, which is a piece of onboard medical equipment. It catches fire mid-flight.
Oh, wow. That's scary.
So scary. And I've actually found the scanner audio from that night, or at least a transcript of it. And it's this moment of confusion on the ground. You've got a dispatcher going, "Hey, do you have any calls in reference to a helicopter landing on the side of Independence Boulevard?" And then someone else chiming in, "Looks like it landed out here for some reason." Nobody on the ground even knows yet why a medical helicopter is suddenly setting down in a car dealership parking lot in the middle of the night.
It's really interesting that the ground wouldn't know and that they wouldn't communicate that to them.
It almost feels like it was too chaotic and scary in flight to do anything except figure out how to get this helicopter on the ground.
Yeah.
There's a local news station that talked to a commercial helicopter pilot just to get a sense of how serious a fire on a helicopter actually could be. And his answer was pretty stark. He rated an in-flight fire 10 out of 10 for danger. He said the smoke alone can blind a pilot. And the detail that got me, he pointed out that on those helicopters, the fuel tank sits right under the seats. So a fire that close to the fuel supply while you're in the air is about as bad as it gets.
So this isn't something just like, oh, something malfunctioned, mildly annoying. This is life-threatening.
It absolutely could have killed people.
Not only the people on the helicopter, but if it crashed, it could have killed more people on the ground too.
Totally. Thankfully, the pilot manages to land the helicopter safely and no one's hurt. And another detail, there were no patients on board at the time. If this had happened during an actual medevac flight with someone's life already on the line that they're trying to hurry and get to the hospital, and now they have to stop at a car dealership, that would have been horrific.
Could have been devastating.
Yeah.
Even more, So who actually reports this fire?
Atrium's vice president of mobile medicine is a man named Jason, and he's the one who actually reports the incident to police. Atrium opens an internal investigation pretty much immediately because this just shouldn't have happened. There's no reason for that to have caught on fire.
And is Josh the suspect then?
Not right away, no. Investigators do eventually come to believe the fire was set intentionally, but that determination takes a long time. This ends up sitting as an open, unresolved case for well over a year before anyone's formally accused of anything.
Do we know why someone would have done this? What would be the motive here?
No, I honestly could not find a motive, a reason, what he was hoping to gain from this. The why of it all makes no sense to me. And nobody on record ever lays it out either. There's no stated motive anywhere in what they eventually charge him with. I do not know.
So interesting. It's really bizarre that he would do something like that.
Yeah, I think it's bizarre too. And I will say, I want to be really careful with how I frame this. But we did mention that their house caught on fire in 2013. And now in 2019, we're setting a helicopter on fire. I couldn't find any evidence connecting the two. I just
an
couldn't stop
interesting,
thinking about it when I was learning about the helicopter of it all in this part of the story.
just an interesting detail. Weird coincidence, maybe, but no connection, no confirmed connection. Very bizarre.
And I tried to find, knowing the fire was in 2013, knowing the city it's in, knowing the address it happened at, I couldn't find one news story on the fire, like how it started, how bad it actually was.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, when Atrium eventually puts out a public statement about the fire, it's pretty pointed. They say, quote, "Nothing is more important for our emergency medical crews than safety, especially for those who are in flight. If what Mr. Hunsucker is charged with is true, it is unfathomable to us what may have possessed him to endanger himself and others in such a way." And then they specifically thank the pilot for landing safely and note how grateful they are that there were no patients on board.
Yeah. And so even looking back at it, this is clearly something that still shakes them too.
Yeah, it really does. So now we're in late 2019, and this fire is just this strange, unexplained incident sitting out there. Nobody is connected to anything yet, but that's about to change because there's something that was never supposed to have survived her cremation that did and is finally about to be tested.
Oh, interesting.
Now, they have Stacy's blood still stored. That might be easy to gloss over. Why would the lab have a sample of Stacy's blood in the first place? A year later, if she was cremated and her organs were never donated?
That's a fair question, but maybe they were prepping for the donation before, because I know a lot of times that does have to move pretty quickly, especially, I don't know if she had passed away at home before she got to the hospital. I guess depending on the time frame and things like that, maybe they had to move quickly. Maybe they had already collected her blood and just kept it in case.
Yeah,
that's my first thought.
You're spot on. Here's how it works when someone dies and they're a registered organ donor. The standard procedure is that an evaluation blood draw gets taken almost immediately before family conversations happen, before anyone's decided whether a donation is going to move forward. It's just part of assessing whether someone's a viable donor in the first place.
That's interesting that they would still have it, though, a year later after they had already decided not to move forward with the donation and had her cremated. That's very interesting that they would keep it.
Right, because like we mentioned, the donation doesn't go through. And by the time things get sorted out or didn't get sorted out with that, they already had the sample and it just sat there. Nobody went back and destroyed it, which might have been an accident, but it's very fortunate.
Yeah, almost an accident of timing. The blood gets drawn as step one. Step two, it never happens, but nobody really undoes step one.
So. Exactly. Now, once the insurance investigation is far enough along, agents get a search warrant. They find out there's a preserved sample and they test that sample.
The one nobody was supposed to still have, given everything that's happened so far.
Yes, exactly. And what they find is almost identical chemically to what we spent all of last week talking about.
The tetrahydrozoline?
Yes, exactly. They find the chemical tetrahydrozoline at 30 to 40 times the therapeutic level, which is essentially the same toxic range investigators found in the Clayton case. Special Prosecutor Jordan Green later explains exactly why this level matters in court. That medicine has a dramatic effect on your heart, and it would cause heart stoppage or heart failure.
Which is exactly what happened to Stacy. And I know you said last week a lot of times they don't test for that. Did they do specific testing in Stacy's case because of what had just happened in the other case, or was that not really a factor here?
I don't believe it was a factor in the testing. I believe they did like the workup of everything that they possibly could, just like in Stephen Clayton's case. So it would
Okay.
come up not just the standard basic toxicology, because they're not really looking to see if they can donate her organs or, not just to see if there's alcohol or drugs in her system type thing. They're looking for anything out of the
Everything.
blue. Yeah. Now, once they find that, here's where it stops being just a strange coincidence and becomes something written directly into the actual criminal case.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
The probable cause affidavit itself draws the comparison to Stephen Clayton and Lana Clayton, not us, the investigators.
So what do they say specifically here?
Well, they lay out what they call several points of similarity between the two cases. Like Laura caught on to real quick, both spouses worked in the medical field. Both were home alone with their spouse at the time of death. And specifically for Josh, as a flight paramedic, the affidavit notes he'd have professional access to medications containing tetrahydrozoline as part of his own medical supplies. So, direct quote from the document, it says, Josh Hunsucker is a flight paramedic for Med Center Air, for which his training and experience would certainly provide a thorough understanding of various types of medication and how those medications could react in the body.
So not just that he had the same idea, he would have literally known what was going to happen.
Yes.
I mean, he should have known. And I mean, Visine is so easily accessible to anybody. Very interesting.
And he's in charge of her medications. So whether he gave it to her in pill form or he put it in her water or her coffee or whatever.
Yeah. Does anyone from the Clayton side of things ever weigh in on this connection?
Actually, yes. Now, because up until this point in the story, everything we've talked about, the inspired by theory, has come from the Hunsuckers case's own affidavit. But York County Solicitor Kevin Brackett, the actual prosecutor on Lana Clayton's case, was asked directly about this in a later interview. And he confirms it from his side, too.
Oh, wow. So what exactly does he say?
He says, quote, the method of killing in that case was the same as ours, a poisoning with tetrahydrozoline. And when he's asked to clarify, they say with eye drops, he just says yes. He goes on to say his own office was actually consulted on the Hunsucker case specifically because of how close the two were, geographically and the timing. And his direct assessment, it's very possible that the suspect in that case heard about our case down here, maybe saw it on the news.
So it isn't just something investigators pieced together after the fact. On the Hunsucker side, the prosecutor on Lana's case independently is saying the same thing.
Right. So now we've got two separate legal offices on two sides of a state line, landing on the same read as to what could have happened. And that's a pretty solid connection without a confession from Josh admitting it. But turns out Josh kind of did admit it Two of his former coworkers had already independently told investigators that before Stacy died, Josh had made an offhand comment. He said, if he ever wanted to kill someone, he would use Visine.
Oh, so he's saying this out loud to more than one person before this even happened.
Yes, 2 separate coworkers. And, the timing lines up in a way that it's hard to look past. The Clayton case had blown up in the Charlotte area news just about 2 weeks before Stacy died. It was genuinely everywhere in that media market that month.
That's pretty unsmart. I think, 2 weeks later,
2
you don't
weeks.
think anyone's going to pick up on that coincidence? Not smart.
No. 2 weeks is crazy to me. And I am guessing he made those comments right around then as well. I don't have exact timestamps, but
I wonder if he had seen something before, like the actual case blew up.
possibly.
Do you think maybe?
Maybe.
Like if there was some reporting that wasn't the big story, I don't know, but that just feels so dumb to me.
Yeah. Yes, it does. And that's why I bring up with her medical history. So not that it has to be connected. It's that he thinks he can get away with it.
Yeah.
Where Lana didn't because she has
this
a
history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is just disgusting to
use. Yes. I do wonder how long ago he made those comments to his coworker. I don't know.
Because Lana was arrested.
Because was something happening in the past and they just couldn't connect it? They didn't know what to look for. I don't know. Maybe he was doing something before that didn't pan out. Why you would do that to your wife who's actively having your children makes no sense, but
no, it doesn't. And, the court case for Josh has gone on for a very long time, and there are a lot more pieces of this and a lot of court records. And I feel like there would have been something because in 2018, we have phones. It seems like there would have been something connecting him to what was going on with her before she died.
Yeah.
And I don't see it anywhere, but it is hard to look past when you see it laid out like we are right now.
Yeah. And maybe it wasn't. And like you said, he thought because she had that history, he could use this method and get away with it.
Right.
But
the reporting could have said, it looked like a heart attack. She almost got away with it without toxicology if his family hadn't pushed for it so hard.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, okay, cremation, we will not do an autopsy, and she already has a heart condition.
Yeah.
I will get away with this by seeing what Lana did
wrong.
that didn't work.
That didn't work out. Not wrong, but that
right. That got her
caught.
Exactly. Yes. After those results come in, Josh is brought in for an interview. And whatever happens in that room, prosecutors later describe it in court as amounting to a confession. On December 19th, 2019, well over a year after Stacy died, Josh is arrested and charged with first-degree murder, plus insurance fraud, and obtaining property by false pretense.
And this isn't too long after the helicopter fire, just not even a month later or just barely a month.
Yeah, exactly. Really weeks after. Atrium fires him the very next day. Josh is held on $1.5 million bond. And the same day he's arrested, a judge also issues a restraining order, barring him from spending any more of that $250,000 insurance money he got. It also bars him from any interest in the house or any assets purchased with the insurance funds. And they preserve Stacy's estate's ability to claw it back if the court later finds it was wrongfully retained.
So the court's already thinking about the money angle immediately.
Yeah.
Does that have to do with the insurance company already investigating this, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think they already knew that aspect of it, and they can see very plainly he filed for that within 2 days and got it all. He'd been spending it. I believe he bought a
Yeah.
boat pretty quick.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And, I do feel like, I don't know why, but I just really want to know when they got those policies.
Yeah.
If that was
Yeah.
just something he knew they had, and instead of getting divorced, I'd rather have some money to move on with my new wife, or new girlfriend, whatever.
Yeah.
Or if he got them as a precursor to what he did, but it's so far after or so close to when Lana's case made news. Kind of feel like they already had him. But
Yeah. I bet they already did. And just ridiculous thinking. I mean, she doesn't have a job. She's a stay-at-home mom. He's going to be paying alimony and child support, right?
mm-hmm.
I can't.
I know. Comes to money too often.
Yeah.
So
Just
immediately
ridiculous.
after, 4 days later, after he's arrested and charged with this, Susie files a wrongful death lawsuit against him, alleging he killed Stacy specifically for that insurance payout and to be with the woman prosecutors now believe he'd already been involved with before Stacy died. The lawsuit gets specific about where they claim the money went to, pointing to what they call extravagant vacations with a girlfriend, the boat, which, by the way, was a $100,000 boat.
Oh my gosh.
Feels insane. They live like 4 hours from the ocean, and if it's not the ocean, that's quite the boat for their nearby lakes.
Wow. Just, wow. That's what you're spending your wife's insurance money on, not saving it for her children.
Yes, exactly that.
Pondering it away
Mm-hmm.
on boats and vacations with your new girlfriend. That's terrible.
It is. I feel like the reason for that money is to put it away towards their future. Also, to help pay for the babysitter now that you still have to keep going to work and the girls need someone.
And to maybe have some time if you need to take off to grieve, to be able to be away from work for a little while, to help your family. Those are the type of things I feel like that money should be for.
Agreed.
Not $100,000 boats. That's insane.
Absolutely agree. This civil case ends up doing a lot more than just seeking damages. Susie's attorneys start subpoenas for different records, including from Atrium Health directly. And they actually get documents referencing complaints and disciplinary actions against Josh that even predate Stacy's death entirely.
So there's already this paper trail of problems really at work, separate from all of this.
Exactly. They also try to get subpoenas for several of Josh's own family members. And according to court records, the Gaston County Sheriff's Office reported that those family members were actively, quote, avoiding service, meaning as best as anyone can tell, they were trying to dodge being handed the paperwork.
So his own family is running from process servers.
Yes.
Like, nope, we're not going to be a part of this.
Nope. Meanwhile, this civil case is quietly doing something else too. It's freezing his money, not just spent it and it's gone, actually legally locked up as part of the litigation itself.
Do we hear from Stacy's family directly through any of this?
We do, and I think it's worth mentioning because the only public statement they released during this entire stretch is really moving. It comes out through their attorney right as Josh is posting his bond, which I don't know how he got money for that. And they open it addressing their whole community. It says, quote, "To our friends, family, church family, and community, we thank you for your unwavering support, friendship, and guidance since Stacy's passing. Without your thoughts and prayers, we could not have made it through our first storm." And then they say something that's incredibly kind. They ask people to, quote, honor Stacy's memory by taking the high road as we begin our journey through this second storm.
First storm, second storm, losing her, then all of this is just devastating.
Yes, so devastating. The statement they put out turns and they address Stacy directly, not the public anymore, her. They write, "To our daughter Stacy, your mother and father promise you that we will not rest until justice is served. We will do everything in our power to support and care for your beautiful daughters, Piper and Willow. We will love them as we loved and still love you. We will never let your children forget what a truly amazing mother you were to them. Your spirit and your smile live on through them every day."
It's just heartbreaking. So sad for those little girls.
It's going to get so much worse.
Ugh.
It honestly, I couldn't even sleep after researching part of this. Just the injustice of it all. Oh, it's awful. Now, finally, in that statement, they take a second to specifically thank the people who helped to get them here. So they thank a special agent named Lisa Morgan at the Department of Insurance. They thank the county medical examiner's office for, in their words, pursuing every lead until Stacy's cause of death was finally revealed.
Even in grief, they're being incredibly specific and gracious to everyone around who helped them.
Yes, they seem like a truly incredible couple, truly incredible people. One thing about that statement, they said, "We will not rest until justice is served." I think that's worth hanging on to. That promise is going to be tested in ways that I don't think anyone could have predicted when they put that statement out.
Oh no. I'm already, I don't know. I don't have words. As you said, it's so heartbreaking and so much worse. I don't even know if we can, I don't know. I just don't.
I understand.
So what happens? What happens next?
Just days after his arrest, which, by the way, right before Christmas with 2 little girls, that timing just alone is awful. On Christmas Eve, Josh posts the bond and walks out. And then in early January of 2020, Stacy's parents petition the court for custody of the girls. So at this point, Piper is 8 and Willow is 5.
Please tell me that the court gives it to them as the grandparents.
Nope. The court gives custody to Josh's sister instead.
Really?
Yeah.
What is happening there?
Right? I cannot understand. And I tried really hard to find the reasoning for it. There it isn't. Either it doesn't exist or it's locked up. But I do not understand.
Yeah, that
Josh's
makes
sister,
no sense. Yeah.
not anyone in Stacy's family, Josh's family, the one accused of first-degree murder.
Yeah. No sense. Makes no sense at all. And to say his family is also dodging being served subpoenas on this case. So something clearly is going on there.
Yeah. Why are you dodging that? Is it because you don't want to say what you know? Or
probably.
What? Josh's sister is a woman named Jessica. And this happens almost immediately the same day he's fired. So it looks like an emergency placement was made right after his arrest, before the Robinsons even had a chance to file their own petition. So Stacy's parents, the people who raised the alarm, pushed for the toxicology test, who promised their daughter that they'd protect her girls, they don't get custody. His sister does.
Genuinely heartbreaking. These are the parents who fought to find out what actually happened, and they don't even get to take care of her kids.
It is so heartbreaking. And I think it's important to think about it because it means that even before anything else we're about to cover happens, the girls are already, from very early on, positioned somewhere the Robinsons can't easily protect them.
Yeah. So where does this leave things at this time?
By late 2020, and we know the court system moves very slowly, but Josh's own attorney is telling the court he's broke and he needs the state to fund his legal defense.
I mean, yeah, if they froze all of his money, that kind of makes sense because he was living off of that insurance money that's now legally frozen.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Because he has nothing else.
Yes. That civil case that Susie filed is what is locking it away from him. His own attorney says it outright on the record. Hunsucker's assets are frozen in a civil wrongful death case. He does not have the assets to obtain counsel. Which is why I say I don't know how he posted bond. I mean, minimum would have been $150,000. You know, it's not just coincidence that he's broke. I mean, the boat, the vacations, whatever, it's this civil court case and he can't touch anything that's left or get money out of the house, anything like that.
Yeah, kind of satisfying in a grim kind of way.
It really is. And if that sounds at all familiar from last week.
Yeah, Lana accused of killing for money, then completely penniless by the time it actually mattered.
Exactly. Though this time it's not just circumstance. This time it's Stacy's own family actively pulling that lever. And in the other one, it was the probate and the whole court proceedings that froze his money. But that's where the murder investigation part of this story maybe could have ended. A man out on bond awaiting a trial, broke with his kids in his sister's custody instead of the grandparents. And if that were the whole story, it would already be this strange, sad echo of everything we covered in the Clayton case.
Well, this is not the whole story, I'm guessing.
Not even close to the whole story. Because over the next several months, while he's out on bond, awaiting a trial that still, as of the day we're recording this, has not happened, Josh Hunsucker does not lay low.
So what does he do?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about in part 2.
Okay.
It's a level of chaos I was not prepared for when I started researching this case.
Wow. I'm very interested to see what happens next.
This man, my goodness, it's very truly bizarre and chaotic. So we will come back to that in part 2 and bring you all the way up to 2026. And you can listen to that. It's available in your feed right now because we hate waiting and we hate making you wait. All right. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. We truly appreciate you tuning in with us as we go through these cases. If you're looking for the resources or the research that we used to create this episode, you can find it on our blog, which is on our website, crimeclueless.com. We would love to connect with you on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, whichever one's your go-to social. Just search for @CrimeClueless. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would be so grateful if you would take a moment to rate, review, and or share our podcast. Every rating means the world to us and really helps grow our show. I know we say it a lot, but it's hard to overstate how much that does help. You can find Crime Clueless anywhere you listen to podcasts. And as always, remember, reviews to be clueless, careless, or caught off guard.
Not today, murders.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.